All right.
Here we go.
Welcome back to another episode of the Merge Feast. I'm Blake, back with Logan and Brandon. What's going on?
What's up?
How are you?
Doing well, doing well. So this week, I know we all three kind of talked about it off the show a little bit and talked a little bit about it during the show at times, but something we haven't really dived into much is conspiracy theories, and specifically Survivor conspiracy theories. Obviously, it's a Survivor podcast. So if you didn't know that, thanks for tuning in.
Welcome.
Yeah. So, I mean, for a long time, I think all of us have kind of questioned if Jeff or production, CBS, has much involvement in the outcome of the game. And I think for as long as I can remember, Jeff has been adamant that they have no involvement in the game. Like, it's set up from how many tribes there are going to be, what advantages get put out there, and they don't like strategically place things for certain players. I think might be a hotly contested topic, and we can dive into some of that a little bit. But I wanted to go through kind of a couple big ones, and I know I've got one, and I know you guys have a couple as well. So I'm curious to hear what some of these conspiracy theories are and see if I agree or disagree. Okay, so mine. I don't know how much I believe this, but I thought it was kind of interesting. So back in Survivor Micronesia, we've got a handful of players that stole food from production. So James, Eric, and Alexis. And then, ironically, they all left the game in kind of an interesting fashion. So James was medevaced. Alexis was blindsided by an idol that Amanda had played, and there was kind of some interesting dynamics there. And then that's when kind of that infamous moment where Eric gave up his immunity idol to Natalie, and it was just, when you saw how those three left the game to go back to where they kind of stole food from production, like, kind of interesting. And I don't know how much validity there is to that, but that is a kind of a little mini conspiracy theory that people have been talking about online a little bit, and curious your guys' thoughts on that one.
Yeah, that one's interesting, and I could see why you would believe it. It's weird. What's weird is, like, James, Alexis, and Eric, they show back up in the middle of the night from wherever. James has a cut on his finger that we don't know where the heck it came from. Alexis has a banged up knee that, again, we don't know where it came from. Now, you see medical working on James's finger, and it is disgusting. So that's legit. But okay, let's medevac him. I know they don't mess around with stuff like that, but the Alexis blindside with an idol that we don't actually see Amanda find. Where did Amanda get this idol? Now, it could be an editing trick where they want to surprise the audience too. But Eric, probably the biggest blunder in Survivor history, probably one of the most talked about moments in Survivor history.
Easily the biggest blunder.
Yeah.
You win immunity and give it away to the Black Widow Brigade, the Majority Alliance, and get voted out. Is Eric that naive, or are these players being punished for their actions?
You can definitely see kind of both sides. I don't know, just believing in Survivor and what Jeff says, I have a hard time believing that one. but there's some validity to some of the points of you go do these things and like the idol of not being found. It just some of that doesn't add up. So I don't know. It's definitely an interesting thought, and I could see where people believe it.
It's also, I mean, that's relatively early in Survivor, right?
Yeah.
Because what season was that exactly?
That was season 16.
Okay. I was thinking it was in the first 20. And so a little bit more, I don't know, it seemed like it was a little more of the Wild Wild West a little bit, not as structured. And so I have a hard time believing that they would do that nowadays. But back then, I don't know. Because, and the reason why I don't think they would do that now, there's been a couple instances that have popped up recently where people have stolen stuff or kind of quote unquote cheated in the game. And one of the most recent seasons with Rachel, was Rachel, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was Rachel in 47.
Like stole the
Or
rice.
tried
off
to
the
at
table,
least.
During the challenge, yeah.
Yeah.
stuff in her pockets full of rice, and like Jeff stopped her and said, "Hey, put it back, and you're not doing that." But I mean, I'm pretty sure his exact words are like, "I respect you for trying, but no."
Yeah.
And then I don't know if you guys saw this or not, but there's a clip, Boston Rob talking about how him and Tyson, I forget the exact situation, but they
Heroes versus villains.
okay, and they were on the island by themselves and were having trouble getting fire started. And so at one of the challenges, either Rob or Tyson ripped up a part of their shirt, like some fabric, and stuffed it in the gas tank of one of the boats or the generators or something like that. And so got it soaked with gas. So then they went back to camp, lit the fire, and, massive fireball took off right away. And production obviously caught it and made them put it out. And just parts that we did not get to see on TV, but later finding out. And Boston Rob is, I mean, arguably a lot of people's and Jeff's one of Jeff's favorite players. So it's hard for me to believe that they punish those players, but that was also a long time ago, and
Yeah.
the game was different. TV was different. So I don't know. I could be convinced. But Logan, what was a conspiracy theory that you've seen?
So one of the ones is Survivor Nicaragua. Kind of an interesting situation around one of the people in Final Tribal, Final 3, Sash. There was a rumor, or he allegedly tried to pay somebody's mortgage or give them some sort of his winning if they voted for him. And so I guess that got back to production, and the theory is that nobody in the final was able to vote for Sash because of that. And then kind of along with that, in that season, they would upload all of the like confessionals unedited online. And they kind of stopped doing that after, I don't know if it was mid-season or at the end of that, but stopped uploading those. And then at one point, one of the contestants, Jane, had a confessional and was talking about it, and it was like very clearly cut off. And so I don't know, there's just some things there of he didn't get any votes. This came up. Was that something that production said, hey, you're not able to do that. You got caught. You're not going to get the chance to win. I don't know. But kind of interesting, especially with all the confessionals not being uploaded and all there.
I like this one a lot. I think it's interesting. I think it's a fun tidbit from a season that's not very well received.
Yeah.
I do fully believe that bribery happened. I do. Now, the players can say it didn't. I don't necessarily know if production barred the jury from voting for him or if they just didn't respect Sash's game. But the stuff with the confessionals is interesting, where for 20 seasons you've uploaded the unedited confessionals, and then all of a sudden you stop doing it and we've never seen them again. And you have this very weird, abrupt Jane saying you can lie all you want with Sash on a voting parchment and then it just cutting off. Super weird.
Yeah. Had you heard that one, Blake?
You're muted?
Sorry.
Wow, that's impressive.
Wow. I thought you were just talking really quietly.
Yes.
You're like the girl from Pitch Perfect. I ate my twin in the womb.
That was spot on. No, yeah, I have heard of that one a little bit. I didn't really put much weight into it, but I remember it, the whole thought of somebody, like the bribery happening. It always surprised me that hasn't gotten talked about more. Like, that's a brilliant idea. Hey, if you vote for me, I'll give you 10 grand. I'm getting $1 million. Like, what are they offering you? Not 10 grand. But I could almost see.
It's got to be against the rules.
Gotta be.
And if it wasn't, I could see production stepping in mid-game and saying, well, hold on a second, this was implied, but you can't share it. So if you're thinking about voting him because he's promising you money, he's not allowed to do that, and we'll sue him. Like, that's not a thing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So that can't be why you vote for him. And if it is, like, you're not getting any money, so don't do it.
Yeah.
You're not allowed to, we won't let you, but maybe stepping in and having a conversation with the players on, like, okay, this was implied, but it's not legit. You can't do it. So that seems like more of a realistic thing, but it is kind of, I don't know, it's kind of fun to think about them stepping in and saying, yeah, no. So you can't vote for him. Sorry.
Yep.
Sucks to suck.
Yeah, it honestly surprised me that it hasn't come up more, but maybe that was the initial, like, hey, and it's very clearly stated in their contract that's not an option and some of that, but I don't know. I'm sure it's talked about.
I would love to get my hands on a contract.
I
and
bet you
see,
there's one out there.
like, what the rules are, what even like the NDA stuff, like, because Survivor rarely, I don't know if it's ever been leaked on who's won, which is impressive.
And if it is leaked, it's more like a theory, or like it's not confirmed 100%, I feel like.
Right. Not that I'm putting these shows in the same caliber, but you think of, like, Bachelor and The Bachelorette. It seems like whoever they pick, that always gets leaked.
Mm-hmm.
And for a show to be going
Always.
on 50 seasons and never really have any leaks is, like, super impressive. So, I don't know. It'd just be kind of cool to see some of that in the contract.
You're 100% with Bachelor, Bachelorette. I feel like every time Celeste, like a week before or 2 weeks before, will be like, I already know who won, so I'm not that excited.
Yeah.
But
What about you, Brandon? I know you had one that has some interesting things going on with it.
so we've actually kind of mentioned this one in the show, I think multiple times. Big Boston Rob fans on this show, but there's a conspiracy theory that goes around about Survivor Redemption Island, the season that Boston Rob won, the season that you could argue Boston Rob played a perfect game. There's this conspiracy theory that Redemption Island is fixed for Boston Rob to win. So it's interesting. So there are mostly new castaways, and then there are 2 returning players. You have Boston Rob and you have Russell Hantz. The new players show up on the beach in this traditional Survivor way. They bring in Boston Rob and Russell in a helicopter, and then kind of bring them in, and Jeff has them draw buffs. There's the Zapatera tribe and the Ometepe tribe. Boston Rob goes first, and he draws the tribe of the, I would say, lesser skilled Survivor players, almost like a bunch of players that don't really know what's going on and are maybe aware of who Boston Rob is. and then a tribe that Russell ends up on that wants to get Russell out so badly that they throw a challenge to vote him out pre-merge. Now, you have that happen. You have Redemption Island, an element that, okay, if they vote Boston Rob out, he will go to Redemption Island and he'll have a chance to get back into the game. All interesting. So you have challenges that seem to be tailored to Boston Rob's skills, mostly puzzles and kind of endurance-based challenges. And again, tribe mates of his that just blindly follow his orders and don't really ever question it. Mm-hmm. Like there's moments where like Matt and Andrea kind of talk about doing something, but it doesn't last long. He pairs himself with Phil and Natalie, and even whenever they merge, the other tribe doesn't really put a whole lot of effort into trying to get Boston Rob out. Now, did all the cards fall into place for Boston Rob, and he just played a perfect game and played to the cast that he was given in the season that he was given perfectly? Or was this season set up for Boston Rob to win?
My couple questions. What number of time was this for Rob to play?
This would have been his fourth. So he played Marquesas, All-Stars, Heroes versus Villains, and then Redemption Island.
And then he's played one after that, correct?
Yeah, he appeared in Island of the Idols as a mentor and then played in Winners at War.
It's definitely interesting. Him drawing the buff first, getting the tribe that, like you said, doesn't have a ton of experience or know kind of how it flows, and then just going along with it to challenge it. I don't know. It's hard to say.
I think it's probably a combination of both. Because Redemption Island was after Heroes versus Villains, right?
Yep.
And so you have Russell Hantz, who is like one of the biggest villains ever, and Rob, who you could argue either way, but if they kind of set this up to where it's like, okay, Russell can fill kind of that villain role, Boston Rob can kind of fill the hero role, even though it's not Heroes versus Villains, but let's kind of strategically set this up where they have this opportunity, and then if it doesn't work out, now they have an extra chance to get back in with Redemption Island. Let's give them as many chances as possible and just hope that it happens, because we really like Boston Rob. He's clearly one of the favorites to ever play with as many times as he's been on the show.
Could have been his last time.
Yeah, he is like one of the faces of Survivor. In Mount Rushmore, he's up there. So maybe a little bit of strategic placement on some of those things.
But
is it outright fixed on like, okay, we're going to do everything possible to make Boston Rob win? I don't think so.
And it could just be his obviously experience and knowing that he's on a tribe that doesn't have experience, and then playing his cards correctly in that. Maybe it just lined up that way and he took advantage of what he was dealt. And he's obviously a very good player, so realizing that and going forward with that, that makes sense.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite ones, because it's forever going to be up in the air of, was it fixed, was it not? I tend to lean that it's not. I think it just comes down to your fourth time playing versus newcomers. Like, unless the newcomers are just going to be like, yeah, absolutely not, we're voting him out tonight, you're going to be able to, as soon as you can kind of gain favor with your tribe and gain trust, then you're going to go a long way, I think. Yeah. Especially with the Zapatera tribe throwing challenges to get rid of Russell, because they threw they I think they won the first 2 immunity challenges, and then they threw the third one, and then they just couldn't win anymore.
I hate the idea of throwing challenges. It just grinds my gears, but
no, I mean, I love a good conspiracy theory. And I think when you're 49 seasons in, now 50 in, we obviously haven't seen 49 and 50, and we're watching a reality TV show, there's always going to be questions of, was that real? Was that set up?
because there's definitely a lot of other shows out there that it seems like they're set up and you can tell. I don't typically get that from Survivor, and for there to be this many seasons, and obviously there's more conspiracies out there on them, but there's definitely not as many as other shows.
Yeah. And I feel like some of this, again, 25 years in, I feel like some of it would have come out, let's say like a castaway from Redemption Island that maybe wasn't known as much wants to have some 15 minutes of fame, and they're going to do a tell-all and be like, yeah, we were told by production, you got to make sure that you don't go for Boston Rob, do whatever he says, X, Y, and Z. And I think that's a little bit far-fetched.
Yeah.
Oh, 100%. And I don't think Survivor would stick around as long as it has without having some game integrity there, because then it wouldn't be all that interesting. Like, oh, it's fixed. Like, whoever's going to win, like, they've already hand selected, and especially bringing back returning people. Like, oh, they're just trying to get this person a win because they really like them, and that hasn't really been the case. And I don't know. I think they've done a really good job of keeping the integrity of the game intact, to make us, continue to come back, and that's why every season is not the best, right? I mean, we just saw that on the most recent season. It was not necessarily the most exciting season, but it was different and like was enjoyable to watch, and I kept wanting to watch it. But it was not the like amazing, flashy, huge moves that make like groundbreaking TV. And I don't know. We say that all the time. I feel like every episode, but that's why I love the game, and that it's not the same thing every time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jeff seems to take that seriously too, and I know he says all the right things, and I mean, you almost have to, even if it's not the case. But I mean, the way it all shakes out versus what he says all seems to align. He seems to take that integrity pretty seriously,
And it's been consistent. It's not been like wavering in any sort. Like, it's always been consistent. He has a passion for the game, loves the show, and if that was something to jeopardize the show or the validity of the show, I don't feel like he'd be as passionate about it, and you wouldn't see him invested in it as much. So,
and I think we have to remember too, they are storytellers,
mm-hmm.
and I mean, you can sit in the same room as two other people, have a conversation, and all three people got a different interpretation out of that conversation. And so I think they can take clips and scenarios in the game and kind of piece together a story that they want to tell, not necessarily being an inaccurate story, but highlight certain moments to kind of fit the direction that they want the show to go. Is that a conspiracy theory? Because what's happening is happening. I think they're just maybe changing kind of perspective on some of that.
Yeah, I think
some of that has come. I mean, that's reality TV. Some of that has come to be expected. But
yeah, you're absolutely right with that. I remember seeing an interview with Colby. It was about heroes versus villains, and if you remember, it's one of my favorite things that has really ever happened in Survivor. It's during a reward challenge, or during a reward, it's Colby, Amanda, and Danielle. They get to do a getaway at the Museum of Treasure Island, like the movie, the writer of Treasure Island, something like that. And there's an advantage in a bucket of popcorn, and Danielle finds it, but Amanda sees it, and Amanda and Danielle are fighting about it, and Colby's just sitting there, not even focused. And Danielle's finally like, "Come on, Colby, do you see this? Whose is this?" And he goes, I didn't even see what happened. I was watching Treasure Island. But to get to the point I was making, Colby in an interview said that's the one time that I actually called Jeff on the phone and was like, that is not what happened. You guys left out a bunch of stuff. You made it look like I was just sitting there doing absolutely nothing. He's like, what I was trying to do was like keep the peace and like maybe gain favor with the villains. But you made it look like I was just kind of throwing Amanda to the wolves. So, and then Jeff even went back and watched the footage and was like, oh, wow, you're absolutely right. So they definitely edited it to tell the story for how they want the season to go.
I don't know why that made me think of another clip that I recently saw with Colby when him and Jeff got into it in one of the challenges. And I don't even remember how it all happened, but Colby was like, all right, let's just get to it. And Jeff kind of called him out like, hold on a second. Like, we'll get to it when I say we're going to get to it. And he was like, I'm just wanting to play the game. And he was like, I get your point. And they like have this interaction. I don't know. I don't know why that made me think of that. But I'm talking about clips of Colby because I just recently saw that one. Were there any other, I mean, there's hundreds of conspiracy theories, but were there any others that stuck out to either one of you?
I actually didn't put this one on the list, but it's a fun one that we've talked about before. The conspiracy theory that season 35, Heroes vs. Healers vs. Hustlers, Survivor added the final 4 fire making challenge to give Ben a chance to get into the final 3 and beat Chrissy. And the theory that was set up for Ben. But what's funny about it is that they've just had fire in ever since to like hold to keep the lie hidden from season 35. I don't think that they fixed it. I think they just were like, we need to change something up here, and it just happened to be in season 35 and look that way.
Yeah. Anytime that they add a complete twist like that, people are always going to be like, oh, you're doing it just for getting this person in or whatever. So I could definitely see that. I think obviously Survivor is always changing and adding new twists, so I don't think they did that on purpose or like just because. It's just a twist. It's something they've added, and they've obviously kept it. It wasn't just a one-off and done, so that makes me feel better about it. But it's kind of an interesting one.
Yeah, I do like that they, at least a lot of the twists or different advantages or ways that they've changed the game, they tend to do it for at least 2 seasons. It's like, okay, just because it didn't work in this season doesn't mean it's not going to work. Mm-hmm. And then, okay, it didn't really work in that season either, so let's switch it up and do something different. I don't know. I think this day and age, it's so popular to be like counterculture and to think that what you're being told is not accurate. And I don't know, conspiracy theories take off like wildfire, and people want there to be something beyond like what you're actually witnessing, and not even like to get political or anything like that. But that's where a lot of those conspiracy theories lead to. Mm-hmm. So I think it's popular to think that there's something more, but I don't know. I really, they're fun to think about. I just don't put a lot of weight into any of them.
Yeah.
Well, I feel like they're typically so easily debunked. Like once you start actually looking into it, you're like, oh yeah, no, there's way too much would need to happen for that to even be true.
And like you guys said earlier, it's one of those of there's be somebody at this point would come out for their 15 minutes of fame or something that would say something. I mean, 20 years ago, I mean, something's going to come out if there was. So
yeah.
And I think if it did, it could legitimately hurt Survivor.
Absolutely.
I don't think it would be nearly as popular. People would look back and be like, wait a second, if you fix this,
a lot of
then
moments
you fixed a lot of this. Mm-hmm. And that just takes away from the game that I love, and it just doesn't seem like I can get off the couch and go win. You're just going to hand select this person, and I don't know. I think that would destroy the game. And,
absolutely.
And I think CBS and production is probably smart enough to realize that hey, we can't do this. We may have some blunders of some seasons, ones that people hate, but we've got to keep that integrity of the game and, toe that line sometimes maybe a little bit, but we can't outright like fix it for somebody. Like it just doesn't seem like something that would happen, but I've been wrong before. So watch next week. There's going to be like 3 people that come out and scandal.
Yeah.
Breaking news. You heard it here at the Merge Feast first.
We had the scoop and didn't even know it.
I think that's all I've got. I don't have any other conspiracy theories. If you guys don't,
I've got nothing else for you.
I'm out of them.
Head on back to camp.
such wisdom. All right. Well, I assume we probably don't have any mail.
Nope.
Boo.
It's all right.
That's all right. Hey, if you have a conspiracy theory that you want us to talk about, or you liked the content and want to see more, email us at themergedfeastpodcast@gmail.com.
I'll be happy to debunk your conspiracy theories.
Yeah.
Let's go over them.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I don't know if everybody knows this or not, but we have 12 weeks until season 49 starts.
Seems like
It's like
really
a long
far
way
away. Yeah. But also
but
not.
It's gonna be here like real quick.
Yeah.
So
I'm excited.
it's coming up. So make sure you tune in. We'll definitely have episodes in between now and season 49, but make sure you tune in, and we'll see you back next week, right?
Yep.
Here next week, off the next week. So see you back here next week. Thank you guys for tuning in. Go ahead and say goodbye, Logan.
Goodbye, Logan.